Welcome to Winning on Wednesday. My name is Juan Vides, and I'm the founder of Winning on Wednesday. Winning on Wednesday is a platform that meets every Wednesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And the purpose is to simply build meaningful relationships and get to know each other and grow. And today I have the opportunity to introduce Andrew Crapuchettes from Red Balloon. How are you, Andrew?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me, Juan.
Excellent, excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us the old elevator pitch, as they say.
Yeah, Andrew Crapuchettes. I live in Moscow, Idaho. I have been blessed to start quite a few businesses actually over the years and had 6 successful exits. I have 5 kids. I've got 3 big dogs. We live on 60 acres, 10 minutes from the office, which is possible because I live in Idaho. I grew up in San Francisco, but being in Idaho is just really a blessed place to be until it snows about January and February when we have 5 feet of snow on my half-mile long driveway. I don't feel as blessed, but I still am very blessed to be in this little college town community. It's hard to travel from here, but otherwise, that's Andrew Crapuchettes. Did the tech thing. I've been CEO of a number of companies, and just enjoying life.
Excellent. So now take us back. You mentioned you were born in San Francisco, you said, or did
That's
that?
right. That's right.
Okay, so tell us about that. Tell us where it all began.
Yeah, where it all began. I was born at Stanford Hospital, actually, because it's kind of funny. I actually had a bunch of learning disabilities when I started life, and my parents realized that I actually had a sense of humor, and so I was not put into a special needs school. They said this kid evidently has something going on there because I didn't learn to speak until I was like 5, and so really a lot of learning disabilities has struggled with things. So I was homeschooled until high school, at which point I realized that I wanted to play sports and meet other people. But homeschooling was actually a blessing to me because it allowed me to learn at the pace and kind of develop at the pace that I needed. And my mom was very, very kind to me. But yeah, grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. My dad was an early .com guy. He was a programmer. And then I learned a lot through that, and actually joined a .com when I was 16 years old because he had already taught me how to program on my own. And it really gave me amazing opportunities, in kind of the late 80s and early 90s in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Wow. Is that something that you inspired as you grew up as a kid to be a programmer or something like that? Is that something, because we all have ideas when we're growing up, and
That's
but
right.
you're being exposed to that at an early age. Is that something that you were inspired to?
I don't know if I was inspired to be a programmer. I always wanted to be in business, though.
Mm.
At a very early age, I was kind of fascinated with this wealth creation that came from owning your own business. And in fact, I kind of had this early aspiration. I want to be a millionaire before I'm 30 years old, and by the grace of God, accomplished that. But mostly, I was fascinated by kind of this connection between hard work and jobs, and how wealth creation happened in an economy. And so early on, I started seeing people who would take a job because they just needed something, to keep them off the street and pay their bills, but they didn't really feel fulfilled in their job. They didn't get that sense of accomplishment, the dignity that comes from hard work. Whereas I saw other people who really enjoyed their job. And my dad did this. He just enjoyed the computer programming, figuring out networking stuff. He just threw himself into it. And I saw him way more fulfilled in his career. And so that was very formative for me when you see people in the .com world who were just chasing the millions, but they didn't really love what they were doing. They didn't love blessing other people. And then I saw people who saw business as an avenue to bless others at scale. And what I mean by that is, let's say you want to go take someone a meal for dinner, you can go do that. And it's going to, cost you a little bit of money, a little bit of time, no big deal. If you want to do that for 2 people, it's going to start to get expensive. If you want to do that every night, you're probably going to break your budget. If you want to do it for 1,000 people, you are actually going to go broke in like one night because most people don't have the budget to go and make 1,000 meals for 1,000 people. But business is an opportunity to actually bless people at scale. So you look at like a DoorDash, they're helping facilitate millions of people getting a meal every single night. And so that's really was kind of this early realization for me, even as a teenager in the Bay Area, when you see all these business people, people who really threw themselves into it, they were seeking to bless others at scale. And then they were getting the economic rewards and the wealth creation that came from that. So anyway, that was a long answer to a short question, but that
That's
was a
okay.
kind of this wild
This
realization for me as a very young man in the Bay Area.
that's amazing, and I know you mentioned your father. Any role models that inspired you as well as growing up? I mean, I think your parents had put a great deal there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I would say my dad and my mom, they were a big driver. They're still alive. They moved up here to Idaho with me. And that was a real blessing. I would also say my uncle Paul, who has now passed away, really was an inspiration. He was a businessman. He was very successful in business. But I also saw him really invest in his kids, my cousins. And he actually started a Christian school in the Bay Area in Sunnyvale, and was my coach for many sports. And I just saw him pour himself out for other people, not take himself too seriously, and really just be a blessing to other people. So I would point to my uncle Paul as one of the big role models in addition to my parents. As I grew up, as I moved to Idaho, there were pastors, other men and women in my lives. And the last one I'm going to point out, there was a boss that I had, and he was my boss for about 3 years in the Bay Area, Jim Wiebe. And he was an older gentleman who gave me opportunities. He never made excuses for me as a young man. If I was, a 17-year-old making stupid mistakes in the workplace, never made an excuse for me, but gave me opportunity to push myself and do things that really I had no business doing. And so I remember he sent me on my first business trip when I was 19 years old. And I was on my own going to Chicago and LA for a full week. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. But he's like, no, just go do it. And he had very high expectations for me, but also allowed me to do things that were way outside of my comfort zone. So those were a couple, and they really had a huge impact on me.
Oh, it's always grateful to be thankful for all these great people in your life, that make you and make you successful, and always taking the time to remember these people. It's always great. Thank you for sharing that. You spoke about sports, hobbies. Do you have any sports and hobbies or any other sports that you belong to? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, anything with a ball, I would love to play. I play a little bit of golf now. I'm just good enough to not be embarrassing. So I'll shoot in the high 80s and low 90s, enough to have fun. I actually just recently took up hockey, ice hockey, which is kind of funny. I grew up in California playing rollerblade hockey, hadn't played for 20 years, and someone talked me into a city league up here in Idaho. And I love ice hockey. I am having a blast. But I would say my biggest hobby is my kids. I have 5 kids. 3 of them right now are playing sports, volleyball, football, and cross country. And so my wife and I spend a lot of time driving around watching the kids because I want to dump into them like my parents did, like my Uncle Paul did, because I saw the impact that it had on me. And so I'd say my biggest hobby is hanging out with my kids, going and doing things with my kids. And I love it. It's fun to watch kids'
I
sports. It's fun to cheer them on. It's fun to see them turn into the men and women that they're going to become. And I think sports are a big part of that. So
I
I've loved sports.
I
It's been an important part of my family.
I agree with you too. I have 2 kids. My daughter's 13 and my son is 15. And my daughter does ice skating and my son does football. He plays football.
Yeah.
So he's a football team. And I didn't realize at first I was very, hesitant with the football thing with these concussions and all that
Concussions. Yeah.
stuff
Right.
and all that stuff. But they're very safe and the helmets and they're very cautious. Everybody's spot on as far as the coaches, the school. They have a good policy in their place for safety. And one of my friends was a football referee. He told me they even changed the rules accordingly to make it more safety for
Yeah.
the
Right.
players. I didn't know that they put a big initiative, a big effort to put the safety on that. And that as a parent, you feel kind of safe, that your
Yeah.
kid
For
is
sure.
being safe. And the other thing about that, it's the community too. The community gets involved with the football team, the camaraderie. I mean, I'm like, wow, I'm in New York, right? I'm in Long Island, New York, and you would think that with our football team in Oceanside, it's like we live in Texas, Texas football. It's like the whole community gets involved. It's amazing that it's a very, and they say it takes a village to raise a, kid. So
Yeah.
this is what it is exactly with sports and everything. Could put good values and could tell us about camaraderie. It gets them early exposure to people, how to network and how to work people, and that gets them ready for the workforce.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And I would say coaches have had a huge impact on my kids. I know they did on me. And so, yeah, I would encourage parents, like, get your kids involved in something like that. And it's fun for you to watch. And you now have someone else speaking into their life, who's a coach. And that's always a very positive thing.
100%. Yes, yes. And tell us what about you at school? What degree did you go for school? What was about your school and was your
Yeah, yeah, it's a funny story. Remember, I told you I had kind of these learning disabilities. Academics
yes.
were never my strong point. And so I went to high school mostly so I could play sports, and math was always really easy for me, but spelling and grammar and all that stuff was a pain in the neck. I never was very good at that. I'm very dyslexic. Everything's backwards. And
Wow.
so when I hit 16, I got my first job in this .com world. I actually started as a shipping and receiving guy, and within a year, I was doing shipping and receiving, as running that whole department. Shipping and receiving department had a bunch of employees as a 17-year-old. And then when I turned 18, I was then doing another job for that business. And so I ended up doing 7 jobs over 7 years for that business. And at the end of that time, in my early 20s, I was the head of business development for the engineering team, and I was traveling all over the world. Anyway, long story boring, I never went to college. In fact, I don't know that I even got a GED and finished high school because I was so busy working. And while my friends were broke going off to college, I was driving a convertible Mustang and thinking I was winning. So I never got around to college. Now, I did marry a Dr. Crapuchettes, Crapuchettes now. And so I paid for a lot of her degrees. So I feel like I at least get some benefit for that.
And wow, no, listen, at the end of the day, I think you have to have a passion in what you do. And
Yeah.
it could be, whether well, a plumber or anything that you enjoy what you do. And I think if you make a living off of that, that's amazing. It doesn't matter, I guess, but the degree definitely does help you. It does give you a little bit of discipline and all that stuff, but you could also learn on your own. But
Yeah.
it's a lot, but it's always good to prepare yourself. I didn't take school until I was like later on, I didn't take it seriously till like, well, I didn't go back to school till I was 26, because
Wow.
I wanted to have fun, you know,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, and
it's a
sometimes you get some life experience that then makes you a
100%.
lot more focused when you get to college. Was when you're 18 or 19, you don't have that kind of life experience of like, this is important. I need to really throw myself into it. So I've seen
Wow.
people be really successful doing your track.
So thank you. And tell us about that journey about where I mean, you were 17 now to what you're doing now. Can you just give us that little journey to like how this goal came about and what you're doing now?
Yeah. So again, got to work for this .com. It was an amazing experience, a profitable business in the Bay Area. But then we got $32 million of venture capital money. And this is in kind of the mid 90s when $32 million meant a lot. And I saw the culture change right around me. It was kind of like steroids for a business. We started growing really, really fast. We lost some of our cultural distinctives. We lost some of the kind of fun and bless the customer because we were obsessed with sales and growing. And I got to kind of see that firsthand. I wasn't on the executive team, obviously, so I wasn't involved in the decisions, but I actually got to see a lot of that. So I get to 22. I've now traveled the world at this very fast growing VC funded business. And the .com world was kind of crumbling all around us here in the Bay Area, down there in the Bay Area. And so I'm, now 22, kind of burned out. I've been working 80, 100-hour weeks for years and realized I didn't really have a life and I wasn't enjoying my job. And so I ended up moving up to Idaho and just told them, I'm going to move. If you want to fire me, that's fine, but I'm moving regardless. They liked what I was doing, so they actually let me work remote, which is pretty shocking in 1999. Remote wasn't really a thing, but I got out of California, moved up to Idaho. About 6 months later, the business finally went out of business and everybody was laid off. And I kind of looked around in Moscow, Idaho, where I live now, and realized there aren't a lot of good jobs. There's a great community, the great schools, but not great jobs. And, back to that original kind of fascination I had with prosperity for individuals, the opportunity to work, bless others, grow yourself, be prosperous. I wanted to be able to bring that to this little small college town in Moscow, Idaho. So I kind of went on this rampage of starting businesses. Some of them failed, but some of them were very successful. Started a 3D printing business. We ended up selling to Stryker. Started a student information software business. Ended up selling that off to the employees so that they could build their own wealth. And then built more and more businesses here in town. Had 6 successful exits along the way, and really just enjoyed myself. Enjoyed hiring people, firing people, developing people, and developing businesses. When 2020 came around, the world kind of lost their mind that year, and my board did as well. And so the board of the business that I was running is about a $50 million tech business. Let me know that I just was too conservative and Christian for their liking. And so I was delightfully unemployed in early 2021. And at that point, I had multiple commercial buildings. I'm doing a housing development. I was just going to take a year off. But that's kind of what was the inspiration for me starting what I'm doing now, which is redballoon.work. And we are just a pro freedom job board because I want to help connect people who want to get back to what made America great in the first place. And that's not judging people based on their skin color or their background or their parents, but judging them based on the quality of their character and the value of the work that they can do, back to the merit that made America and the American economy so strong. And so that's what I kind of pivoted into, and that's what redballoon.work is today.
So thank you for sharing that. And wow, this is such an amazing story, by the way. And so tell us what you learned from all that experience. I mean, I like to call this the golden nugget moment. And so if there's
Yeah.
any information that you've learned that has helped you from your journey, is there anything you want to leave behind or give some examples to help somebody better their career or be a better person?
Yeah. I would say that the main thing that I learned all these years of building companies, selling companies, et cetera, when you are focused on blessing yourself, it is far less fulfilling than when you're focused on blessing others. And I think that's the crux of the matter. Whenever I made investments where I was just trying to make money, it just, I might have made money, but it just wasn't fulfilling. But when I tried to make an investment or invest my time or my money in something where I was seeking to bless other people. And I'll give you an example. I had a cousin who was trying to find a house in Sacramento. And she's like, Andrew, I cannot find a rental property or anything. I'm like, well, why don't you find a house that you think is a good deal and go ahead and give me the details. I'll buy the house and then I'll just rent it to you. And then you can find some other roommates and you can probably end up living there for free. And I'd love to just help you out and, buy the house. So I do this, and I did it to do her a solid, to help her out. And lo and behold, I ended up buying at the very bottom of the market and sold it 3 years later for 3 times my money. So I made 6 figures on this deal, and she was happy because I found a spot for her to live, and I was thrilled. But my focus was not making money; my focus was blessing someone else. And God built the world in such a way when you do that, comes back along on your own head. And whether you make money or not, you're going to feel way more fulfilled when you're deeply seeking to try and bless other people.
Yes, it's like giver's gains mentality. Always pay it forward. I'm a firm believer of that, and always be grateful, and always be pay forward. Amen. Thank you so for sharing that. That's amazing. What about networking groups or communities? Or who do you belong to? Do you belong to other networking groups or communities?
Yeah, I've been part of a number of different communities. So C12, Christian CEO group, Convene is a great group. C-Suite for Christ. I'm on my kids' school board. I'm an elder at my church and very plugged into my church community. I'm on a board of National Classical Christian Schools, and that's actually been a great community building in addition to just board work. I'm on a number of other business boards, but I think those are the main things, is really just plugging in where I can use my time and energy to bless other people. And then I did mention ice hockey. So I'm on an ice hockey team, and actually that's a great community. When you do things with other people, when you go and do a task, even if it's a dumb little hockey game, it does build community, it builds relationships. So I would encourage people, sometimes people can build relationships by just sitting down with someone else and having a conversation. That's great. But I find that I build community best by doing something with someone, whether it's serving someone else, it's raking leaves at a yard, chopping wood, playing hockey, or being on a board where we're trying to build an organization. That's how I build the strongest relationships in my life.
Yep, it's that's amazing. That energy that you put out, and that energy that we both receive. So that's always good. We're talking about our company, your company now. Tell us about Red Balloon now. We're gonna talk
Oh yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
So Red Balloon. So this has
Yes, yes.
been,
We saved the
yeah,
best for last, by the way. So you
yeah.
know
There
the
you
way
go. There you go.
the way
Ta-da!
so after all this, people find out actually what you do. So this is
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
And
Was he do anyway? Nice guy and everything. So, uh, so yeah, redballoon.work. Again, my
right.
story of really being removed from my job based on my values. I wanted people to be in a spot where they could live their values out loud and know that it was not going to cost them their job and their opportunity to pay their mortgage and feed their kids. And so that's really where Red Balloon came from. We are now the nation's leading pro-freedom job board. So in only 3 years, we've gone from 0 to 2 million job seekers have been on the platform, and over 4,300 businesses have signed up to basically find each other. It's matchmaking for employment for people who want to just get back to merit, free speech, hard work, and the things that made the American economy great. So we started there with that job board. Then we had customers come to us and say, hey, would you do recruiting services for us? And I'm like, well, I don't like how recruiting services generally work out because you pay this finder's fee and it's very expensive. And so we started a low flat rate recruiting service for our customers where we charge way less than you traditionally would pay. And you get someone actually going out and finding great people and bringing you values aligned people who have the skill set to make your company grow and be successful. So if you want to do it yourself, you can use our job board. If you want us to take care of that, then we have this low flat rate recruiting service that has been highly successful. And we've filled positions from secretaries to CEOs for hundreds of businesses. And that's been really fun. And then this week, this is like a big announcement on this show on Wednesday, on the Wednesday podcast. We are launching our applicant tracking system. And basically, this is software that allows you to build your employment brand by great communication with candidates, by building a talent network. And I'm just going to highlight one feature of our ATS because there's a lot of other things I could talk about, but I'm just going to pick on one, and that's our talent network. All of us have had the experience of meeting someone 6 months ago who seemed like a really good person, but we didn't really have a need for them in our organization at that moment. And so we say, hey, just email me your resume. And then 6 months later, we're like, who was that person? What was their name? I know that I could really use the talents and the abilities that person had inside my organization today, but you don't know where they are. And so we built a talent network as part of our applicant tracking system where every business out there, and we've already started to implement this with several, every business out there can basically say, you know, why don't you join my talent network? And that way I can keep you abreast of all of the great jobs that we're opening at our business. I can engage you in our employment brand and put you in a position that you're in a structured database so that when I have an opening that's the right fit for you, you can go ahead. I'll reach out to you and tap you on the shoulder and say, I think it's time for us to have a conversation. People can join the talent network. You can use our over 100,000 job seeker profiles to add to your talent network. So it's like a stocked pond. Or you can just go and upload a file. If you have a file folder that's full of resumes, we can turn that into your talent network, which is a structured people database, so that when you're ready to hire, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from a group of people that know you, want to work for you, and are going to be a great fit for your organization. So our ATS, our applicant tracking system software, does lots and lots of other things. But one of the really cool things is that we build you a talent network so that you can hire successfully in the future. So that's Red Balloon, Pro Freedom Job Board. You can do it yourself. We can handle the hiring if you want us to do recruiting. And if you want software that's going to help build your company culture, Red Balloon ATS can solve that problem for you as well.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but what is there any specific industries or any that you work with any people? Give us some like examples of some companies or people that you've helped out. Do you have any stories that you could share with us with that? So
Yeah, absolutely. So
sure.
we had one customer that unfortunately that one's going to have to remain nameless, but he
That's
had
fine.
hired people before Red Balloon who were actively trying to destroy his business because he was kind of a pro freedom, pro America podcaster. And so he actually had people like unplugging servers on weekends, leaking financial information, just actively trying to destroy his business while he was paying them. And so we came in and we have now done all the recruiting for showrunners, for ops people, for IT people. And, you know, he sent me a thank you note. He's like, I have the blessed assurance to know that the people that you're bringing me are not going to wreck my business. We've also done recruiting for National Religious Broadcasters is a great example. They're an organization in DC. They have 3,500 members, big organization. They needed a new CFO. And he talked to a number of recruiters, and those recruiters said, well, it's going to cost $50,000 to $70,000 to fill that CFO position. He's like, look, I'm a nonprofit. I can't afford that kind of thing. And so he ended up using our recruiting service for that CFO. We just charged $4,500 and then a $2,000 success fee on the back end of that. And he was blown away. He's like, you just saved me $50,000 and brought me a values aligned CFO who's going to help build my organization. And honestly, Juan, we have tons of stories like that. I get unsolicited thank you notes from perfect strangers all the time saying, I found a job through Red Balloon. You saved my marriage. I'm going to church again. I had a single mom write me and say, I found a new job. It's a dream job through Red Balloon. And 3 weeks into the new job, one of my two sons says, Mommy, you're not angry anymore. Because when you have a good job, and this is back to this whole theme around this, when you feel like your effort is going to drive prosperity for you personally and success for your business, and you don't have to play politics at work, but you can focus on merit and hard work, it is deeply satisfying, and it will have a huge impact, not just on your work, but on every other aspect of your life, where you can be free at work, you're going to be free in your community, in your family, and everywhere else. So that's the mission of Red Balloon. How do we bless people? How do we redeem the world of work so that people can go out and live their lives and not have work be something they hate?
Wow, Andrew, amazing, amazing story. And thank you for sharing your story. And if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best number to contact you, or best way to contact you?
Yeah, so you can go to redballoon.work. There's a ton of free resources on there for businesses and job seekers. You can email me, Andrew at redballoon.work. And again, it's .work, not .com. Andrew at redballoon.work. The last thing I would encourage you to do is follow me on LinkedIn. I try and put out content every single day on how to build strong cultures, how to be a good employee and be successful, how to earn more money, and have a lot of joy in the process of doing it. So go follow me on LinkedIn, Andrew Crapuchettes. There's not a lot of Andrew Crapuchettes out there, so you don't have to worry about getting the wrong one. Or you can email me, Andrew at redballoon.work, or go to redballoon.work and find all the great resources, find great businesses, find great job seekers, and let's make hiring fun again.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andrew Crapuchettes. And if you'd like to be a guest on Winning on Wednesday, please simply go to our website, winningonwednesday.com, and sign up as a first-time guest. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.